What is a 15-minute city? So come on in, let me show you what a 15-minute community looks like.
Well, I'm excited to see this, Randy, because you always break things down into nice practical ways, right?
Here we go. These residents of the 15-minute community, they're not locked in, but they just stay there. They're free to come and go, but they don't. So let's take a step inside. Everything they need in their life is right here in their 15-minute community. A water bowl, a feed tray. They own nothing, but they are exceptionally happy. And you know how happy they are is by how many eggs they produce. And it's so wonderful because I get to take everything that they produce, and they just keep producing. So let me go in here. And here we go. Each of them have their own house. Now, in a 15-minute community, you don't get a lot of variation in housing. They're all pretty much the same. But we can take a look and collect their production. There's a few. There's a few more. And there we go.
And they're none the wiser.
And they're happy.
Yeah.
I get to take what they produce. They're free to come and go, but the world is so scary for them out there, they will never leave. I don't have to put a fence around them. And here we are.
It's an ideal world. I don't see anything wrong with it. Everything is provided for them. They're cared for. They're happy. They're together.
Yeah.
It's all convenient.
What? So anybody who wants to understand what a 15-minute community is, here you go. And there's only one boss. And that boss provides everything for them.
Уважаемый господин председатель, дорогой друг, добро пожаловать в Россию.
Good evening, Ben. Let me turn your desktop audio on.
Well. Good evening, John.
Good evening, Ben. How are you this fine evening?
This is the first time I managed to get it directly on cue and directly on time, and you turned my bloody audio off.
No, the problem was that I was too busy counting you in that I forgot to turn the audio on.
That makes a surprising amount of sense.
Yeah. So that's why you
Now
were
I'm
right
just,
on cue.
I've got boom, 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 stuck in my head now. It's
Did you
just
like that?
stuck there.
You seem to be
Good
enjoying
evening.
it.
Well, good evening to the few people that have come in already. I see Robin there. I see Frankie there. I see Trudy, Robin, again, Nikki. Nikki's a new one. Hi, Nikki. Militant Mushroom, Dread Eye,
I'll
a
do.
bunch of you there. I'll do indeed. Nice
do.
to see you. Nice. Frankie says John's tricking you. Well, it wouldn't be the first time. You know what? When me and him went to Disney, he told me his name was Barry. He told everyone his name was Barry.
Yeah, but you told everyone your name was Susan.
My name was Susan at the time.
And my name was Barry.
Yes, good. So yes, good evening, everybody. So what do you want to talk about in the initial bit before we show him the song?
There's a couple of things we could talk about because that clip was almost live. It's very recent, that clip of Mr. Putin and Mr. Xi.
Yeah.
That was them meeting the day in Moscow.
Yep.
China is very much becoming the peacemaker in this process when America, and we'll touch on it later on, but America just seems to be trying to ramp up the issues. In fact, let's talk about one of those issues that America seems to be wanting to ramp up. So, I don't think this is from the Express.
Yeah.
The newspaper. I use that description loosely, very loosely.
Lightly, yes. This is the same. I believe this is the same Express that uses James Madden and Exacta Weather as their long-range weather forecaster and get it wrong every single time.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
Express. That yeah.
So Russian destruction of drone backfires as US sets up new base on Putin's doorstep. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Putin. I don't think the US decided on a whim to put 10,000 troops into Poland. I think that's been planned for a while.
I was going to say that's not something you do like that.
Yeah.
And
it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's going to take a while. So it's been a while in the planning.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a while in the execution.
But this way, it's nothing to do with what this is purporting it is to do with. Absolutely nothing to do with it.
Absolutely nothing. And another fine example of how the MSM just conflates stories out of nothing. They really do. They are, in some respects, magicians.
Well, once again, this is the same newspaper that uses James Madden and Exacta Weather for their weather forecast. This is the same newspaper that uses him and goes, Snowmageddon incoming, everybody's gonna die, big freeze, right? And they get it wrong every single bloody time. Like you said, we should use that term very, very loosely.
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching a video earlier, right? One of Count Dankula's videos on his second channel, and he was looking over a story. Speaking of the media. He was looking over a story of a guy that a YouTuber who's been arrested and remanded for murder, of a pregnant woman. Turns out he was a journo working for a newspaper.
See, I'm not sure if I like Count Dankula or not.
Oh, well, the thing is, I think his appeal and his fame it happened by accident almost, right?
Aye, it did.
And he just rocketed.
Yeah, and he's Scottish, so that kind of puts me off him.
Well, then you might as well quit now, right?
Why? People like Scottish people.
Well, you're Scottish.
Yeah, but Scottish people don't like Scottish people. Have you ever looked at Scottish people? Ever been to Scotland? Because if Scottish people are fighting, it's nearly always with other Scottish people.
Yeah, but you lot do have this absolute disdain for the English.
But we don't.
It's something to behold.
We don't tend to fight with them much. We'll probably fight with ourselves more than we actually fight with
No,
English.
no. What you'll do is you'll sit there and you'll call us names.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
You'll sit there and you'll call us names, but that's as far as it usually goes. And then you go get drunk, and then you have a bar fight between yourselves, and we sit there going.
Well, you can giggle if you like, but never
Yep.
interfere.
Yeah. No, we don't interfere. We just sit back and let the show happen.
The one that always gets me though is when pretend Scottish people call people Sassenachs.
What the fuck?
Well, a Sassenach is a derogatory term
Right.
for someone who is not a Highlander.
Okay, so for most of you.
Yeah, for most of us, yeah.
Yeah.
So a Sassenach was initially started as a lowland Scot. Therefore, Sassenachs were actually Scottish people. And then they just extended it to cover England as well because it was there, you know. So it's not very historically accurate to call English people Sassenachs when you are one yourself, you know.
Introduce the fucking show then.
Okay, and with that, I'd like to welcome you to this, our special evening trial out of Chasing Dissent Live with me, your Sassenach of the evening, John, and your other Sassenach of the evening, Ben.
Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave.
It's a real good sniff that Biden gives her at the end, isn't it?
Always, yeah. Every day.
It's like he's trying to inhale her wig.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. It's fantastic though, isn't it? Like, what's fantastic, I think, about it is we are watching the downfall of Western society.
Come to the mic.
We're watching the downfall of Western civilization right in front of our very eyes, John.
Well, don't start too soon because there's a slide for that. So we could go back to that later on.
Oh, how I wish I wasn't teetotal again.
Right. So let's start with these clowns. McHenry brings us Kirby. John Kirby declares that any call for a ceasefire in Ukraine is unacceptable. In reference to the Putin and Xi meeting. What? Why? Peace is a bad thing?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you exactly why.
Go on.
Because it's not the US doing it.
Yeah. Well,
and that is all it is.
And the US don't want, they don't want peace really, because there was things I was going to talk about on Friday night that we never got to because you cut me off in my prime.
Sorry, I was tired.
Yeah, and then we've got Prepus IQ says White House's Kirby also said there is a possibility that China could try to position themselves as a peacemaker in Ukraine. We have deep concerns about that. Oh my God, they could try and strike a deal for peace. What are they thinking?
Word!
That's shocking, isn't it? Shocking.
I mean, to be fair.
Go on.
To be fair, I have major concerns if China's involved in anything these days. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. But then at the same time, at least they're up front with how they oppress the shit out of their people.
Nobody trusts China, right?
No, and rightfully so, by the way.
Yeah, well, maybe the Africans have kind of been taken in a little bit by them with their
taken in. Don't you mean taken over?
Yeah, but you know, Asia. Nobody in Asia trusts China. You know, China's like you would bring China to a banquet and China would steal everything that's on the table, right?
Yeah, and then what they do is they take it home and then make cheap knockoffs of it.
And sell it back to you.
Sell it back to you, yeah. That's what China would do.
Yeah, so nobody trusts China. And the Asians, I mean, you know what the Asians are like. The Japanese hate China. They hate the Chinese.
Haven't they currently, they've just signed a declaration mobilizing and gearing up the army and making it bigger for possible war with China.
Well, I think it's more to protect their outlying interests like Okinawa and all that, which is effectively an American American Marine base, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think there's something mental, like, is it like 58 bases in Japan? 58 separate military bases, all part of the US and Japan. But anyway,
you got to remember, Japan are letting this happen because they don't want a third one dropped on them.
no, Japan let this happen because they got two dropped on them.
Yes, because they don't want a third one dropped on them.
Yeah, well, anyway, Japan's kind of changing their mind at the moment, because Japan's kind of getting to the point that there's quite a lot of local dissent amongst the populace about the American presence there. So Japan's not quite the country it used to be. It's getting a wee bit more stand on its own 2 feetish when it comes to defence.
That's good. Let's move on then, shall we?
Just before we move on, there's a reason. Maybe there's another reason why America wants to keep this war going, because the U.S. Department of Defense right, has just exposed how much it's going to cost to replace the equipment they've already given to Ukraine.
And how much is that going to cost?
£300 billion.
You know, it's time to cut. It's time to cut them off, guys.
$300 billion to replace the equipment that they've given to Ukraine.
I mean,
obviously,
I'd have
they're
to get a fact
replacing
check
it.
on that number.
Well, obviously, sorry.
I said I'd have to get a fact check on that number, but I believe you.
Well, you don't need to believe me. You can believe the American Ministry of Defense, because Department of Defense. It was them that said it. In a Senate hearing. So
there we go.
So if they're going to, okay. You may need a fact check on that number, because they've said it to Congress, so they could well be lying.
Probably double.
Yeah. But anyway,
probably double.
$300 billion. But obviously they're going to replace the kit they gave away, the shit kit that they gave away, with better kit.
With nice new shiny kit. Yeah.
Right.
With nice new China busting kit, shall we call it?
I think America's got real problems. Real problems.
I think absolutely it does. It needs to stop thinking it is well policed, probably quickly.
It really does.
It's going to backfire.
It's going to. At the moment, it seems to me that America is thrashing about like Robert Shaw in Jaws, just as he's sliding down the boat towards the maw of the shark. Because
that is my favourite film ever made.
Yeah.
What a great analogy.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, that's what they're like just now, because they're everywhere. They're everywhere and trying to do everything all at once, and they don't have the resources. Their economy's in the tank, and it's tanking further with their banking. I mean, housing crashes next. I think America's done. I really do.
Hey, anyway. America. Show me the way to go home. I'm tired and I want to go to bed. Yeah, I had a little drink about an hour ago and it's come right to my head.
Right.
Woo!
Now, it's clear why Poland is gathering an army of 300,000 and arming it. Poland intends to fight with Russia. So this is Duda, right? This is the president of Poland. He's quite obstreperous and quite an annoying arsehole, basically, right? Because he's and let's face it, there is no love lost between Poland and Russia. They don't like each other. Of course not. The Polish and the Ruskies do not like each other. But this guy's obviously sensing kind of blood in the water, because he's maybe looking at Russia and thinking, they're taking an awful long time to deal with Ukraine, which is practically done. He says, but they're still, taking a long time. Maybe they're ripe for the strike. So they're building up, and then with the Americans backing them up, it's like they're going to be the next American pit bull. You know, they're just going to be on a leash. They're going to be on a leash, and the American, you can imagine the big Daddy Biden standing there going, unleash the dog. But,
Release
you
the
know,
hounds.
it wouldn't end well for, and see, the problem is, and Poland's talking about going into the conflict, right? Moving into the conflict. Which means they would then be directly confronting Russian troops while supporting
Yes, they would.
Ukraine, right?
They would, and they wouldn't then be able to trigger Article 5.
Well, NATO's a defensive organisation, not an
Exactly.
offensive organisation.
Exactly. So if they go running in all guns a-blazing, you know, technically speaking, they're on their own. And Rishi, Sunak, don't fall for this shit. And don't send our boys and girls, politically correct now, remember women fighting services too, to die for your dick swinging contests.
You got to remember. You got to remember, we don't have anything left.
I know.
It's all gone. I mean,
Ukraine.
The mod came out with what? 5 days worth of ammo if we were in a hot war. 5 days. Germany's
We'd have
got
to end it
3.
Yeah, we'd have to end that war in 3 days just to be safe.
And you're not beating Russia in 3 days.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. I would not have thought so. Let's move on. Ukraine launching grenades with slingshots. They say NATO standards looks more like cheap made in China NAFO. God, those NAFO idiots. I wonder who came up with the idea they really
This is a
think that
video.
will go far, right?
Yeah, this is a video of them. It looks like they're using resistance bands to fire hand grenades. I mean, you see the guy run back, pulling the elastic. You can imagine it. You've done this as a kid. You've built these things as a kid, catapults like this, right?
Yeah.
And occasionally it all goes wrong, and the stone either smacks you in the hand or hits the support and bounces back at you, right? Now imagine doing that with grenades.
Is it just one of them ones that you hold, or is it like a wrist rocket?
No, it's like they've put two stakes in the ground and
Oh,
put like
Jesus Christ.
It's like it's something a coyote in the road runner. It must have been supplied by Acme. That's exactly what it's like. It's unbelievable. So this is what they're reduced to doing in Ukraine.
Oh dear. Let's move on. This one is it's all for show, isn't it? Let's face it. The International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin, accusing him of war crimes in Ukraine. I believe the actual main thing is something to do with children.
Well, we've actually covered the children thing, right?
Yeah, but I believe the children thing is what this arrest warrant's for.
And yet, they just had a big thing for the kids that they'd saved that were orphans. Because remember in 2019, there was like 60,000 kids disappeared in Ukraine, not to Russia. 2019, 60,000 kids disappeared in Ukraine. It's not for nothing that Ukraine is probably known as the #1 peddler of child pornography. I mean, there's something like 10% of their kids are either working in mining or the sex industry, the sex exploitation industry. And that's 10% of their children, not their population. In fact, they were pulled up because they didn't meet the international standards on child protection. No shit. No shit. And it's not a laughing matter, but...
In times of war, we must forget these things, John, because they're the good guys. And I say that very, very loosely because, as you all know, anyone that watches this show and knows my rhetoric here, there are no good guys.
There are none.
No, there are no good guys. But yeah, they've said arrest him, arrest that man. Who's going to arrest him?
Well, that's a good
He's
question.
like-
Who would? Well, this guy would arrest him.
Who
That's the Justice
That-
Minister
that-
of German, Bushman. He would arrest him.
that guy's getting knocked over by a gust of wind.
Yeah, as Dagny
Right.
says, we would immediately arrest Putin, says the German Justice Minister, if he sets foot on German territory. Well, he's already been in Ukraine. Nobody arrested him.
Yeah, yesterday, day before, just travelling around,
Yeah.
like nothing bothers him. Just
Driving
walking
about
around
it.
in his big old puffer coat,
Driving about.
by himself in his big old puffer coat, just walking around in Mariupol. Hello,
his-
I'm Vladimir Putin.
With his gangster gait.
Hello, I'm Vladimir Putin, and this is now my city.
Aye,
It's
God.
basically what he's doing.
Yeah, and I mean, I can imagine him just sitting there stroking his pussy and going, "I could shoot you from Stuttgart, Mr. Bushman."
Hold on 1 minute. Let me get bare-chested and ride my bear.
Yeah. Ed, bring me the eagle.
Ed, send in the eagle.
Excuse me.
But no, there are no good guys. There are no good
No, there
guys
aren't. There aren't.
in these, especially when it comes to politicians and leaders, people who want power.
And-
Should not be anywhere near it.
Talking about there aren't this guy's a bit of a loose cannon.
Yeah.
Yep. So
This is from Andrew Lomax, who has been very, very vocal, actually, helping us out with
Yeah.
stories these last couple of days. So thank you, Andrew. It seems to be a very enthusiastic viewer. So
there's a
thank you.
couple of his tweets here today, but this guy Medvedev. Do you remember he already just last week threatened the life of a U.S. senator
Yes.
by explaining to him that sometimes planes crash.
Sometimes, Mr. Graham, planes crash.
And then he's now talking about maybe knocking out the court in The Hague with Onyx. So he's actually making Putin look quite restrained.
This guy's looking a bit mental, isn't he?
He's fucking lost it. He's
I'll use the
that's just-
exact same hypersonic missile to take down simultaneously Lindsey Graham's plane and the Hague.
Yeah, he probably could. And actually, Andrew gave us the rest of the tweet as well, which is quite interesting. So you could read this out in your best Russian accent.
Gentlemen, everyone works on the golden missiles. It is quite possible to imagine the targeted use of hypersonic Onyx from the North Sea by a Russian ship at the Hague Court building. Unfortunately, it cannot be shot down, and the court is just a poor international organization, not the population of a NATO country. That's why they won't start a war. They are afraid, and no one will feel sorry for them. So, judges of the court, look carefully at the sky.
That's a definite threat.
I would say so. I would definitely. Was that a good enough interpretation for you?
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. I think the whole Poland US thing, right, could be a kind of bargaining chip that America's trying to make it look as if, you know, they're going to beef up Poland and go to war with Russia, and they're maybe trying to get Putin to think about backing off, but he won't do it. Not with the way they're carrying on. I mean, they're just being ridiculous.
Yeah, that's just life. And you know, we'll move to our next tweet from Andrew again. It's about a good old war criminal. We're talking about war criminals today, aren't we? We really are.
This is a real war criminal.
And as Andrew says, the arbiter of truth and reasoning and war crimes has spoken. Tony Blair, Putin can't use Iraq to justify Ukraine invasion.
Well, I think he's quite right. I actually think he's quite right to reject comparison, right, between Russia's war in Ukraine and the US-led invasion of Iraq, because there are a couple of things. One, Zelensky was shelling the civilian population of the Donbass and had killed over 14,000 civilians since 2014. Okay,
Well, the government.
Zelensky's government, they continued shelling, and they increased the shelling towards the tail end of 2019 and then the early months of 2020, which is part of the reason that pushed Putin to go in. I mean, they tripled the shelling in December, and I think it was like 10 or 20 times the amount of shells fell on the Donbass in January. And therefore, I think Putin at that point just moved in. But apart from that, Tony's quite right to reject the comparison, because Saddam Hussein never had weapons of mass destruction, and he, Tony Blair, knew this all the time and lied to the population of Britain and took us into an illegal war, of which no one has ever been held to account for.
No, and he got so many of our men and women killed for his, once again, dick swinging. The man is a fucking war criminal. He absolutely is a war criminal. And we could say that both Zelensky and Putin are also war criminals, right? They've all got something in common here. They're all assholes. They're war criminals. And the thing is, I will reiterate the point that I keep making, in that there are more of us than there are of them. And if you don't want to go and fight for these assholes dick swinging, just say no.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
It isn't, right? Because look what happens. Look what's happening in Ukraine just now. You've got gangs of basically, what was it they called them? The guys that used to recruit people for the ships. For the Navy way back in the early 1800s.
I don't know.
Press gang. You've got guys acting like press gangers. They're running about, dragging people off the street, throwing them in vans and taking them off to the front, where they're then getting basically a gun shoved in their hand and thrown out there as cannon fodder. So it's easy to say no, but you've got to say no as a group, collectively. That's the problem. And the thing is, you know what? The only thing that we in the UK appear to be able to do collectively is go, bah.
Yeah, go, yes, sir, please, sir. Stamp on me harder, daddy. Take my rights away more, daddy, government. Please, government, take them away from me. I don't want these blasted rights. I'm not capable of making my own decisions.
And hey, don't get me wrong, you guys that went out in the protests and whatever, fair play to you, fair play. But it's tiny amount of the population. Right.
And I'm just looking at this next tweet and just
from Sandra.
Go and read it out.
Okay, Enid Blyton books have been rewritten now and stashed under the counter. Librarians are apparently frightened to give them out in case they offend people. So, words including queer and gay were replaced, as was brown, in reference to the appearance of a fisherman's suntanned skin. What the... What do you call someone that's got a tan then? What do you call someone that's got a good tan?
I honestly don't know. Tanned. Or is that wrong as well?
Well, that could mean you've been scalped. If you've been tanned, couldn't it? Anyway, phrases...
I tanned his hide.
Yeah, phrases such as shut up and don't be an idiot were also reported to have been altered, along with mid-century slang terms.
So these are no longer Enid Blyton books?
No, they're not. They've been sanitised for your reading pleasure.
And you know what? This never goes well, does it? It's rewriting history. It's rewriting history. It is sanitized. It's wrong. But right. People had different attitudes, and the thing is, the things that have been replaced here, there's nothing even wrong with them.
There's nothing wrong. They're wholesome books,
right? But
there's a bit of homoeroticism in them, I think. Maybe a touch of lesbianism.
I was going to say, Enid probably had an active mind, right?
But really, the whole thing's ridiculous. I mean, I loved Enid Blyton's books. I'd read them all by about 9 or whatever, and I'd read all the Secret 7, all the Famous 5, and I'd done the well, I was going to say I'd done the Bobbsey Twins, but I hadn't. I'd read the Bobbsey Twins, the Hardy Boys. I mean, I read all these books when I was a kid growing up, and I loved them all. I was reading Sven Hassel, Wheels of Terror, by the time I was 13.
Yeah, but you are 104, so.
And Dennis Wheatley, Ride with the Devil. I loved Dennis Wheatley books. They were brilliant.
But the thing is, like I said, these are not Enid Blyton's books anymore. The second they've been changed, altered, sanitized, rewritten by somebody else, those are somebody else's words now. They're a cheap, poor, soulless, sanitized imitation.
But they're the right words.
There's no such bloody thing.
Anyway, let's move on to Dr. Bruce Scott here. And actually, this is a kind of duplicate tweet with that of Mark, but it's quite interesting, I think, to see the kind of the difference in approach between one side of the pond and the other. Okay, because we've got this one from Dr. Bruce Scott, who says it was unethical and they were known this straight away before this PSYOP was released. They're talking about lockdowns. And the Telegraph is coming out saying that the use of fear to control the behaviour in the COVID crisis was totalitarian.
Admit scientists.
And the members of the Scientific Pandemic Influenza Group on Behaviour expressed regret about unethical methods. Yes.
Have they really?
And so they should. But
I think they should be on their knees begging for fucking forgiveness, personally.
Well, yeah, they should be. But this guy is he's spot on. It was illegal and against human rights. It was. It should never have been allowed to happen. Criminal prosecutions are needed. But again, I'm gonna stick to what I've said. I don't ever think anyone's going to be held to account for this. I really don't.
I agree. And hello there, Delivering Liberty. Sean says you're clashing with UNN, so I'm jumping between. Well, you're more than welcome to keep jumping. We will be here. Let's move on to our dear friend of the show, Mark Changizi. Telegraph. The evidence is in. This is a Telegraph's headline. We're just reporting it.
Yep.
Lockdowns kill people, and the more you look down lockdown, the more you kill. The leaked WhatsApp messages show that we have been governed by petty, frightened men who valued appearance over substance. Now, okay, let me just refer you back to the University of Warwick. Now, the University of Warwick gave the government, they gave the government a risk assessment before they locked down that said lockdowns would kill over 500,000 people in the long run.
Yep, they did.
The government had that from the University of Warwick in their possession the entire time. And they went, you know what? That's a risk we're willing to take. You, watching this now, you are a risk they were willing to take. Just letting you know.
Yep, indeed. And now we move on to the decadence that is infecting the end of Western civilization as we know it. This is the Luxembourg Prime Minister with his is
that Ryland Clark?
No, it's not. It's like
Are you sure?
I don't think
it does, doesn't it?
But no, this is his partner. It's quite scary, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, you know what? Look.
This
the guy
is, no, but this is part. No, this is part of what. This is back to 1930s Germany. Yeah. This is what was going on in Berlin, and you know what came out of that. And this is it's history repeating itself. We're turning into a debauched and disgusting society that has no moral fibre whatsoever. And it's going to end in the complete ruination of Western civilization.
Well,
and the thing is, it's not me that's going to suffer. It's not even you, Ben. It's going to be your kids.
And your kids.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And that's why I'm angry about it. Because this kind of thing, I don't give a shit, right, what people do behind closed doors. But flaunting this kind of thing in the open, right, and doing this and cross-dressing and having drag time, story time and all this crap, right, it's wrong. It sends the wrong messages. And it doesn't allow people to develop properly without undue influence. That's the problem.
See,
there is undue influence on children growing up just now that they should not be having.
See, I agree that the children should be left out of all of this, right? First of all, children should be left out of all of this. We shouldn't be, and in fact, I would say we shouldn't even be giving, straight sex education to children until they're of an appropriate age. I mean, my son today got taught. He's 9-year-old. He's autistic, and he got taught about gay and lesbian sex today at school.
Yeah.
And we weren't informed, by the way. So I'm quite, but regardless of that, he shouldn't even be being taught about straight sex.
No.
Right?
No, he shouldn't.
He's not, especially him, because he's autistic and he's behind a little bit. I don't think, and we don't think he is appropriate of age to be knowing about these things. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he simply won't understand. And it's annoying, but it's done now, and there's nothing I can do on the back end about it. It's done. However,
you can still go to town on them though, because it's worthwhile making sure that it doesn't happen to someone else.
Yes, and obviously, you know me, when it comes to that school, I will be giving them my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Right. But second of all, what really, really, really concerns me at the moment is, put this picture aside, right? This is stupidity in my eyes, right? Put it aside.
Yeah.
We'll go back to the rewriting of the books. That is what is concerning me. The sanitization of our children's minds, the taking away from our children of the need to know how people were and what people used to believe. And basically, what we could be doing is showing these people these old style books and saying, look how we've advanced as a society from this way of thinking. But no, what they're doing is they're going, we've got to make it look like people thought like us all along. And it's not true.
Yeah,
and
this is the part I don't understand, because, I mean, you've been to school, you've done history and all that, and you get taught what's supposed to have happened. And
well, how do we know that's true?
Well, we don't. That's the problem, right? That's the problem. You sit there and you believe what adults are telling you, right?
Yeah.
And 90% of the time, they're talking through their arse. They really are. I mean, you don't have a clue how much of history is right. I mean, there's actually, and I mean, it might sound like a conspiracy, but there are people saying that, or there is evidence to suggest that there's 900 years out of history missing.
Right? I couldn't tell you.
But I'm not asking you to tell me or not, but there's evidence to suggest there's 900 years missing. You know, like the Dark Ages, right, that they talk about, right? Well, the reason that they're called the Dark Ages is because nothing happened. Because there's no story. So we went from Egypt and Rome, and then suddenly there's nothing for like 900 years, and then suddenly we're into, the 17th and 18th century, we're discovering America and all that. So there's this big, huge gap when nothing really happened, right? Apart from people running about England or whatever, and burning castles and fighting with each other. But there isn't enough history to account for 900 years worth.
Well,
it's like, I don't know if it's right or wrong. What?
Even the Bible sort of jumps from Jesus is born and all of a sudden he's 30, right?
Right, okay, but if you look at the Bible, right? The Bible's just a story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same story as Horus and Isis.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same exact story. So the Bible's just a reworking of what came before it.
And once again...
And I know people are going to hate me for this, but the Quran's just the same. Except it puts a different spin on things.
All Abrahamic religions come from the same place.
Yeah.
They all come from the same place. They're all just sort of retellings of one another.
No, they're not retellings of one another. They're retellings of a single story, right?
Yes.
That probably comes from pre-Egyptian times in Samaria are from Babylon.
Well, how many times do you think our society, and this is a genuine question and something I do wonder sometimes, and you can call me crazy if you'd like, but I wonder how many times has our society advanced beyond what we are at now technologically and just destroyed itself and imploded?
Well, that's actually a good point, because have you ever looked at Tartaria?
Let's not go there.
Well, then you just brought it up though, because that's
Anyway, carry on.
But that's the kind of thing that people talk about. They look at. I mean, it might be something that we maybe want to pursue with Ed, because he would no doubt have some good deep dive research to do in Tartaria. It's quite interesting. It's worth a look.
Remember, all I'm doing here, folks, is posing theories and asking questions, and I'm probably not right. Right,
well,
I'm probably not right, and that's why I'm asking the question.
No one's asking. No one. Remember, we never expect you to believe us.
Well, I didn't even tell you I think that's what's happened. I just wonder if it is.
Yeah, I know, but we never expect you to believe us. Even when we're talking about the news, you go out and do your own research, because that's how you find things out, and that's how you understand how things really work. You take a starting off point, which is what we're more than happy to give you, and then you go and do your own research, and whether you believe us or not is entirely up to you.
Yeah, no, and that's a very good point, and the point we always try to make to people: we are not your arbiters of truth. We're not. We are just people posing questions, reporting on the news, and trying to entertain you as this world burns down around us.
Scone Scoffer said, "Would anyone like a nice cup of tea?" I would actually.
Yes,
I wouldn't mind a nice cup of tea and a scone.
Yeah.
Or
Two
coffee.
sugars, please.
Oh, right. Anyway,
Just two.
Wait, let's move on.
Let's move on. Yeah, let's move on to National Housing Party UK. Now, this guy has got some balls.
I'm gonna fucking. Can you hear those fucking arseholes next door?
Yeah.
Right. Now this is what I don't understand. And as a parent, right? And I'm sorry, but as a parent, why would you let your child suffer through this, right? Because we are in a unit, okay, that is a further unit away. So there is a double brick wall there, right? Then there is another unit with a double brick wall and an insulated double acoustic plasterboarded wall between them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the unit that they're in is just slightly bigger than this unit, okay? And they have like 30 kids in there dancing. And the volume of the music is so loud that you can stand at the top of the street, which has got to be 300, 400, 500 yards away, right? And hear it clearly. Now, what is that doing to those kids' eardrums?
Well, as someone who was it's someone who was playing his guitar through a distortion pedal through a stack amp at 11 for years on end, and I have a constant ringing in my ears.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
so do I. I mean, I have incredibly bad tinnitus, and I put it down to one, shooting guns without ear protection.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Right, and driving a motorcycle without ear protection that crazy
That will
speeds.
also do it. That will also do it.
So anyway, let's go back. Let's go back to
Anyway,
let's
this
go
guy's
back
got
to-
some balls.
Yeah, he does. He does. He's going to Wakefield in 2 days' time at the start of. What is it, Ramadan or is it Ramzan? Because I've heard that
It's Ramadan. I think it's Ramadan.
Yeah. Well, but the Asians tend to call it Ramzan,
Well, still.
which is quite interesting.
So this Danish man, who is Rasmus Paludan, will visit Wakefield and burn an Islamic holy book in contempt of the undemocratic forces. And I saw his video. He says that more than once. These undemocratic forces, who basically, fucked over the kid who scuffed his own copy of the Quran.
Yeah.
Right?
His own book.
Now,
Let's just call it what
his
it is.
own
It's a book. And because technically, And as I pointed out, technically it shouldn't even be classified as a Quran.
Yep, no,
Because
it's his own book. It's his own property.
Because
he can do what he's with it.
Yeah, but because the Quran should never be in anything other than the Arabic language.
Now, this
Therefore,
dude already
this
did
is an English book.
This dude already did this in front of a British embassy.
He did it in He did it in front of the. He did it in front of the Swedish. The British embassy in Sweden, I think.
Yeah.
And he did it, and he didn't get arrested.
No, but he probably will get arrested here.
Yeah, he probably will. Yeah. And what will he get
almost
arrested
definitely
for?
will. Oh, some kind of hate crime, I'm sure.
How can it be a hate crime to burn your own book?
Well, look. It doesn't matter how it's going to be one. They'll make that up afterwards. It's like, how the hell did I resist an arrest when I was dragged from my car where I was sitting idly and beaten mercilessly on the floor?
So
they
anyway,
just make this shit up.
It'll be interesting to see because he's copied in all the Muslim councils. So they all know he's coming. He's just
like I said, he's got some balls.
He definitely has, yeah.
You
know what? I know why he'll be arrested. For his own protection.
We are arresting you for your own protection, sir. But he hasn't actually said where in Wakefield he's going.
He said he's going to do it in a public space.
In a public park, I think. Yeah.
He didn't say park. He said a public. He said in a public. What was it called? Square. In a public square. That's what he said.
But I think what he was intentionally vague there, so that he wasn't met by police. Although you know as well as I do that either he's just going to be refused entry to the UK, because that is very possible.
Mm-hmm.
That's happened to people. Brittany Venti, I believe Lauren Southern, even for simply saying Islam is gay or Muhammad is gay. I think she had on a sign. She was then banned from the UK.
Remember, you got to remember. I mean, the religion does give you an out for shagging goats. It literally gives you an out.
But what I'm saying is, she will either be banned. He will either be banned from entering the UK, which I think is probably the most likely one. Or the second he gets into the UK, they're just going to go, right, his passport's flagged, follow him.
I think they might detain him at the airport or whatever. It depends how he comes on, I suppose. But
it'd be like when Tommy Robinson tried to get into Mexico.
Yeah.
A few months back, they just sort of sacked him at the airport, didn't they?
Yeah.
And his family went in.
Yeah,
and
they'll probably detain him for his own safety and then say, no, you're getting deported because you're likely to cause a public nuisance or some nonsense like that. You know. Right, moving on. So turn left at Stoke. That's a good name, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do we think of Stoke, Ben? What do you think of Stoke?
It is. I wouldn't call it a town. I'd call it a bunch of car parks with a few buildings around them.
I couldn't understand why it's got so many car parks.
Oh my
and
God,
they were all empty. They were all empty.
Do you know, I was thinking about going back to Stoke soon, just to go and look at the car parks and go. It's a lot of fucking car parks.
We should do a tour of the car parks of Stoke.
Oh man, that would be one for the second channel, wouldn't it? The car parks of Stoke.
That's the kind of content you could put anywhere.
Yeah. Chasing Dissent in the car parks of Stoke.
Maybe we could sell that to the BBC and Netflix. And here we are.
Shoot it all gritty and raw like, and have some really.
Here we are in a car park in Stoke. Stoke upon Trent.
And across the road, there is another car park.
Yeah.
We don't have
but a section of that car park has been allocated to Burger King, which again has its own car park.
And just over there to my left is a multi-story car park.
And here we see some recently flattened property that's going to be turned into a car park.
My God, so many. And I remember we were there, they were fucking building another the multi-story,
Right,
weren't they?
yeah. Every time you turned the corner, there was a sign: car park.
Park here!
Come and
£2!
park here. Turn right
£5!
Turn right at the lane. We have a car park.
Paul says he could narrate for us. You can imagine that now, couldn't you? If John and Ben enter Stoke-on-Trent, they casually look around at all the car parks and they think, "We got this, boys."
Yeah. Right. Okay. So yeah. I think what these people are doing is terrible, and there's no way I could condone that.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, they are doing God's work. Yes, they are. They're doing God's work.
I think they are. Oh, yeah. Right.
Vaughan says, "I know Stoke well." I know you do. Vaughan goes to Stoke often.
Do you have a favourite?
You've got family there. Yeah. Do you have a favourite car park, Vaughan? Is it the one near the Genting Casino, or is it the one near Burger King, or perhaps the one in the? I was going to say the holiday. Where was it we stayed? I think it was
Best Western. Best Western.
Oh, Best Western.
But it's,
you can't stay there no more because there's now a migrant hotel.
Yeah, migrant. Whatever. Well, they're not migrants, are they? They're asylum seekers.
Are they?
I guess so. Right.
Are they?
So, I'm going to move on. Shall we? Shall we move on?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. We got this.
Let's do it, boys.
Right. So, Elaine Craig puts this up. So, the Chief Constable of Police Scotland is going to quit after 5 years, warning that policing is unsustainable given cash shortfalls. Right.
Okay. Where are they shoving all the money then?
It's like any big organisation. It's too big, right? Should never have been built as one organisation because the policing requirements. I mean, this is like trying to police, Manchester, right? Which is obviously a city type environment, and the Lake District, right? And and then expand that to cover the whole country because you've got a completely different type of policing in rural communities than you have in city communities. And when you're one police authority that's responsible for everything, where do you think all the resources go?
Well, they go to the top. They go to the very top. They go to Glasgow.
Yeah.
Or they
go to
Glasgow
and Edinburgh.
Holyrood.
They go to Glasgow and Edinburgh, right?
And
that's what happens. And everything else suffers. It really does. Whereas before
Del Boy here.
Before it was all separated out. Now, I want to say I'm not quite sure why Elaine's having a go at Ian Livingstone because I know Ian Livingstone, albeit in a professional capacity, but he did seem to be a pretty stand-up guy. He was, in my view, trying his best.
And I can't comment to that because I don't know him.
No, obviously you can't. But no one else would give up their generous pension to help out the company, would they? Really? If you've worked for a company for 30, 35 years, you're not going to give up your pension if the company says, "Oh, I can only afford to give you 10%." So you'll do that, yeah? No one else would do that, would they? So why pick on him just because he's saying they're short of cash? And they're probably short of cash because someone else retired or resigned recently. We're still looking for the 600k, aren't we?
Hi, Nicola. Hi, Peter.
Now, Del Boy does bring up a good question here, I think, don't you?
Yeah,
I think that's I was toying with the idea of putting this in the funnies, and then I thought, no, this is a reasonable question, right?
Yeah.
If it was those people doing story time, do you think it would be acceptable? Do you?
Well, no, not in that capacity. If they turned up dressed like that,
what's wrong with the way they're dressed? They're modest. They're not showing anything untoward.
I can definitely see at least one nipple on the far right.
Pardon? No, you can't.
But no, the point is, no, I wouldn't be happy with these.
No, you wouldn't.
With women. women dressed like this. Now, if this woman came dressed modestly and just sat down in the library and read a story, that's no problem, right? I don't care if she's a stripper at night in an adult environment. That doesn't bother me.
Yeah,
but if you bring that work to my children, then I've got a problem.
Yeah, this is the part I don't understand. I mean, why do you feel the need that you have to thrust your peccadillos in front of children?
Well, this is one of my bugbears with drag queen story time. People say they're not doing any. You see all these defenders saying they're not doing anything untoward, right? And then you see all these videos coming out of these drag queens getting children to twerk and twerking in front of children.
Yeah,
now that kind of stuff is just unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
Completely inappropriate. Completely.
Yeah, it is completely inappropriate. Now, you know, it just pisses me off because once again, the guy wanted to. I just. It's so. Oh, I can't even get my words out here. We just need to remove the sexualization aspect away from our children. That's what we need to do. Like I said,
but we seem to be going the other way.
I know, and it almost, but the people that defend it, they worry me a lot because for the most part, these are just your everyday people that sit there on Twitter and defend this and defend sexualization of the children. I don't either. I
mean, I mean, you know that I have very strong views on freedom of speech and if people have done their time and all this and. You know, it gets me into trouble sometimes, right? But I can't see how anyone can defend this kind of thing. You know?
No, I don't. I don't. And you would think that even with people that you would vociferously disagree on many issues, you'd think this would be a where we could come together and we could all just say, let our kids be kids. Let our kids play dress up and firemen and whatever, and you know, get dirty in the mud and climb trees and
yeah. And you know what? I see. When I was growing up, I played with a doll, right? That doll was either called Action Man or G.I. Joe, right? But effectively, that was just a doll for guys. Yeah,
of course it was. Yeah,
right. But no one suggested to me that I should suddenly become a woman as because of that.
Well, it's like my son, isn't it? When he was younger, he used to want to play fireman, right? Because he saw like Fireman Sam on TV, so he played fireman. So I didn't think at the time that I should go and take him down the fire station, leave him there with a nice little hard hat and hope for the best. You know what I mean? Well, I didn't do that.
You know what I wanted to be when I was 4? I wanted to be a mouse. And I wanted to be called Jerry.
You did, yeah. You wanted to be Jerry.
I used to go around telling everyone I was now Jerry and I was a mouse.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and you know, you would have made a fantastic mouse, by the way. You would have. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Speaking of small furry animals, right? So, I love this from Darryl, and it's probably a complete spoof, but so this is in response to a reason why the Looney Tunes character Pepe Le Pew is cancelled, right? And Joe Pug says, I'm glad he's cancelled and my children are safe. It must have been some kind of misogynist thing or something like that. Now my son, because he was always trying to get laid, wasn't he, Pepe? Yeah. So now my son can get back to playing Grand Theft Auto where he just set a hooker on fire so he didn't have to pay her. You can't make this shit up, can you?
No, well, I mean that is absolutely true though. If you don't want to pay the hookers in GTA, you just set them on fire.
That's crazy.
You just set them on fire.
What kind of lesson is that teaching our children?
Do you know what? My son thinks Grand Theft Auto is just a driving simulator.
Your son shouldn't be playing Grand Theft Auto at his age. Anyway, right.
Anyway, we're only at the midpoint of the show, are we?
Yeah, we are.
But Trudy says, I was a mouse in a show. I was about 3. Trudy
Huh?
was a mouse in a show, John. She got to be a mouse.
I played Friar Tuck once.
You still look the part.
I had to put a pillow down my front then, though, to make me fat. Now I don't.
Oh, ooh. Elon Musk says in the months ahead, we will use AI to detect and highlight manipulation of public opinion on this platform. Let's see what the PsyOps cat drags in.
Right.
Okay.
I don't know what that means, Ben.
I don't either.
I mean, anyone in the chat, I really don't know what he means.
I don't either. So let's just move on from that. But before we do,
Sometimes he talks shite.
He always talks shite.
Yeah, I know.
He's chanced his way through life to becoming the world's richest man. He's talked shite. He talked himself into the world's biggest fortune. Vaughn says in the chat he used to pay his hookers in GTA, but then drive them off the pier. Sophia Dahl.
The
Is she
Union.
any relation?
Dahl?
Roald Dahl?
I don't know.
Mm.
The European Union is conducting a study into mandatory chips for workers and is looking at the pros and cons. It sounds a bit scary.
The EU has been studying mandatory chip implants since 2017 and has an in-depth published study examining the technology and the barriers needed to overcome in order to chip their population. Well, whether or not people think this is conspiracy theory, I can turn around to you and say we're not in the EU anymore, thank Christ. But if it came to something like that, but second of all, no.
Yeah, you've got to remember things like, I mean, they're always doing experiments on chips and things. I remember Sweden did it. And everybody goes on about Sweden's chipped their population. You know, there's something like 6,000 people out of 11 million have a chip. And nearly all of them are in Stockholm. And all because of an experiment at the university there. So it's not used universally. Nobody ever asked me to scan my hand when I was in Sweden.
So Trudy says, my kids played The Sims, had kids, and social services took them away. I'm gonna admit something. When I was a wee teen, I used to play The Sims, right? And what I would do is you could get a chemistry set, and if you used the right mix of chemicals, your sim would turn into a flesh-eating zombie. So I'd populate a house with about 100 people, remove all the doors, turn this sim into a flesh-eating zombie, and then watch him just rampage through the entire lot of them. It was great fun.
Okay, moving on. Now, Spicy Secret History brings us this, right? And it says, I mean, you can read it. It says 1,000-year-old map proves there is land beyond Antarctica. Whoa, hold on a minute.
I'm just looking at some black dots on a
but hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. How does a map prove anything unless you've been there?
Exactly.
Because you can draw a map of anything and say, here be monsters. But until you've been there and seen the monsters, you can't actually say that it proves anything.
See, look at this. Look at this. On the other side of this, there's a map, and that map takes you to the land of the dragons, John. The land of the dragons. Yeah. I know where it is. Only I know. It's on this map.
So, I need more.
Well, yeah.
I need a lot more than that. You know,
I do.
A meme is can be funny, it can be interesting, it can be thought provoking, but it very, very rarely proves anything.
Yeah, he's once again correct. So don't just believe it because somebody put it on Twitter, is what we're trying to tell you, right? Yeah. And don't believe what's coming out of our mouths either. Obviously, do your own research. Wittgenstein? Wittgenstein? Is that what we're going with here? Or Wittgenstein?
Wittgenstein, I would say.
So, sugar replacement linked to blood clots, strokes, death study finds. So all of you that don't drink this stuff and drink the diet version.
Well, I think it's erythritol, which is a sugar alcohol. But hey, it's convenient. That's all I'm going to say about this one.
Shalini says everything on social media is true, don't you know?
Mm-hmm. Now this
Robin
this,
says we need a reality show beyond Antarctica.
yeah, that would be cool. Right, this one is good. So we've now found a link. We actually spoke about this fairly recently. The guy found in a hold all, remember, the MI6 agent?
Yeah.
So the MI6 spy, I don't think he was a spy as such, he was just an agent. He was found dead in a locked bag, and it was locked outside, remember? It was a hold all.
Yeah, and didn't they say no foul play as well?
Yeah. Oh, he was suicide.
Yeah.
He committed.
Yeah.
He did it himself. Had hacked secret files about the U.S. president. And who was the U.S. president at the time?
Well, who was it?
Well, isn't it odd how often anyone who looks into the Clintons dies in mysterious circumstances?
Everyone they know commits suicide. It's just.
Chalk one up. Chalk another one up for the Clinton death cult.
I like being alive. I'm not suicidal. I love my life, kind of. I don't like the pain that I'm in, but other than that, I love my life. Right? I don't want to end it anytime soon because I enjoy laughing at this shit 3 times a week. Before we do move on, is Hunter Biden on the list? Because if not, we got to talk.
There's a whole thing about Hunter. Well, it's not about Hunter, but there's a whole thing about the Biden, so there is opportunity for you to talk about Hunter. Okay.
I mean, because that boy's got some brass balls on him at the moment.
Oh yeah.
That.
Oh, that's in it as well. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Hunter's there. Yeah.
Roddy Dunlop, KC or QC. You could interchange them here because it's KC in the display name, QC in the handle. How many times can I use the word wow in the space of a week? This is from Sky News. Nicola Sturgeon's husband, Peter Murrell, quits as SMP chief executive in face of no confidence threat. John, I will leave this one to you to have a little party.
I mean, it's the end of the this is the end of the SMP. I think they've lost something like 50% of their members in the last year.
Yeah, but they didn't know.
So the whole thing's falling apart. It is falling apart. I mean, they've been lending people money left, right, and centre. They've been borrowing money themselves. They've still haven't accounted for the 600k. The police are investigating them. I mean,
they still haven't built the ferries.
They're nearly as bad as NATO.
Let's move on then.
Okay.
Because whilst I don't trust Andrew Bridgen in any way, shape, or form,
I don't trust YouTube either.
I don't trust YouTube either. But whilst I don't trust Andrew Bridgen, what's been done here is actually quite terrifying and goes back to what I was saying earlier on about, the sanitization and the rewriting of history. Because this was a man who stood up and gave a speech in the UK Parliament. He's a sitting MP, right?
No, it has been reinstated.
It shouldn't have been removed in the first place. It shouldn't have taken a fucking uproar.
And that's why I left it here, because it should, as you said, it should not have been removed in the first place.
It shouldn't have. And you know what? Nothing anybody did to question anything over the last 3 years should have been removed.
No, it shouldn't have.
People should have been allowed to ask questions. People should have been allowed to pose their own theories, because all this tells me is that YouTube or the powers behind it don't trust you as an adult to consume certain media.
Yeah, and well, you're right. It's the infantilization of people, because all this misinformation and disinformation stuff is rubbish. It's just rubbish.
Yeah, it comes from everywhere.
Opinions.
It comes from everywhere.
Yeah, it's people's opinions, and people are entitled to have their own opinion. And what you're trying to do is you're just trying to force people down a certain route of thinking. And that's not how people work. And people will push back against it. And,
rightfully so. And
there are certain groups and certain cultures that don't push back as hard, but there are other cultures that are going to go nuts. And one of them is the Gallic culture in France, and maybe a little bit here in Ireland and Scotland, which I'm still waiting to see it, though. I'm still waiting to see it erupt, because it's pretty much time that we started making our feelings known.
I agree. Vaughan says Bridgen ain't so bad. I think his speech, if nothing else, was on point and had citations. His stats seemed on point. Yeah, but disregard all of that for a minute because he's a sitting MP, and look how he's only coming out over the past few months, right?
Yeah.
He's only speaking up over the past few months. Maybe he voiced a little bit of concern, a bit of dissent during the time that all of your rights were being destroyed, the economy was being destroyed, old people were being locked away, and the like. Right, but he was not a voice as anywhere near as loud. He wasn't speaking up like he was, like he is now. Then, right? Mm-hmm. All he seems to be hyper focused on is the treats, the treatments. What about the actual destruction of your rights when it happened? What about our kids' education?
Yeah.
What about the rights of?
No, you're right. He's only jumped on this since Malhotra came out, really, hasn't he?
Yeah, it seems to me like, and there seems to be this contingent of people that are doing it for quote unquote celebrity, right? And we got called out last week by my stalker for talking about Andrew. Well, actually, he lied about what we were talking about. We were talking about Andrew Bridgen, but and saying that he wanted all this relevance and would disappear into obscurity. My stalker said we had no self-awareness. He cut the video a second before I said like us, so lied essentially. But he does seem to know that his game is up, right? He's lost the whip. He's probably not going to be re-elected. So how can he cash in and monetize on this as much as possible? And I think, personally speaking, that's what he's doing, right? Are we doing this for quote unquote fame? No, we do this because we enjoy doing it. We enjoy entertaining people. And yes, we would like to make a steady income for it. Right?
We don't. We don't
make anything. I mean, my stalker made that very clear when he screenshotted our Patreon and said, they get £7.50 each a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
And you know what? We appreciate it.
We do. We do. We appreciate every bloody penny of it.
We do.
We really do.
Should we move on?
We shall. Adam's arrived. Hi, Adam.
Okay.
He's arrived. Anyway, moving on. Trailer Swift. You do like a bit of Trailer Swift, don't you? More front than Blackpool. Just in. This is it. This is it. The brass balls on this boy. I'm sorry. You've got to give credit where credit's due.
But you've got. Have you not got 17? Have you not got 17? What do you call them? FBI agents saying that's not Hunter's laptop.
Well, that's Hunter admitting that it is.
Yeah, I know, but you've got 17 FBI agents saying it wasn't Hunter's laptop.
Then I'm saying that these 17 FBI agents should probably be sacked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they should.
Yeah.
And remember,
I don't think they're very useful.
I mean, the guy's terms and conditions of his repair shop were quite explicit. You know, if it was there for more than, I think, 90 days or whatever, and nobody had come to pick it up or hadn't paid the bill, it then became the property of the shop, and he was entitled to dispose of it how he sees fit.
So it's his property.
So it's not Hunter Biden's anymore. It's the
if Hunter left incriminating stuff on it, that's Hunter's fault.
Oh,
Nobody
that's
else's.
Hunter. That's to do with Hunter, and that is obviously Hunter because we've seen the pictures, we've seen the video. There's no mistaking unless it's I don't think it's a deep fake, but you know they'll probably try and claim it is at some point. But and the thing that that dude goes naked water sliding. Oh, I know. But the thing that really pisses me off is why is nobody fucking ever saying laptops? Because there were two.
There were.
Not one.
There were two.
Two.
I mean, I kind of want to go naked water sliding now. Don't you, John?
No.
You're living that balling life, just naked water sliding.
Right.
Just saying. Why China may actually have up to 30,000 tons of gold as opposed to the official number of 2,000. China has been the world's #1 producer of gold since 2007, but it has also been the #1 importer year after year. Of course, the Chinese government will weaponize the gold against the dollar. only in a dire situation. You mean that like this person says here, it's an insurance policy, isn't it? It's reverting the currency to the gold standard if they need to, because at some point we need to turn around and say to China, we need to stop relying on you.
No, it's better than that. It's better than that.
Got it.
So China, since mid-2019, the Central Bank of China has reported it's got 1.9 thousand tons of gold, right? Okay. America's got 8,000 tons of gold. America's the biggest gold holder officially in the world. Okay.
Yeah.
If China suddenly revealed it at 30,000 tons of gold, the US dollar would just go boom through the floor.
Just
tank.
Yeah.
And the price of gold would go fucking sky high. So China's just used it as an insurance policy, right enough, because China could bring down America. If China has 30,000 tons of gold, they can bring down America tomorrow. And there might be some.
I mean, it is a big if.
It's a
because
well,
once again,
it's not a big if, right? Because there are a number of ways in which China holds gold that it doesn't have to report. Like the Chinese army holds gold; it doesn't need to report.
Yeah. Okay.
Private companies that hold gold in China don't need to report on it. China has mined 6,000 tons of gold since 2007, right? 6,000 tons. So how can it only have 1.9 tons of gold left? It probably doesn't.
Very, very.
China buys gold in 18.5 kilogram bars, which aren't traded on the gold exchange. Okay, so there's another way of hiding it. It buys a lot of its gold through Switzerland, which isn't reported. So there's another way of hiding it. So even if China's only got 10,000 tons, it still makes it bigger than the States, and it still brings the States down.
Yeah, I just want to revert back to the comments here, talking about the last slide. Vaughn's nailed it. He said Ben don't want a naked water slide, just wants to use his balls as flotation devices. Nailed it there, Vaughan. Nailed it.
Oh God.
You know what? I'm just going to keep drinking this stuff, and eventually I'll be able to space hopper around.
Bloody hell! How much longer have we got to go? Right.
I don't know.
So Mats Nielsen here says the German federal government has admitted that the German Secret Service, BND, pays journalists for good reporting.
Oh, what you mean, like the Canadian government, the British government, the US government?
Yeah, but since 2018, the federal government has paid 1.5 million euros to journalists for saying what they want.
For propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
We do not do the propaganda anymore, John. We are not like that anymore. We are the good Germans. We believe in freedom and democracy.
You're a lying bastard.
No, John, you do not know what you're talking about. We give them some money so that they can have extra holiday. They don't have to write nice things.
And now we come to a public service announcement. Ben?
Right. Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, you keep seeing all over Twitter at the moment, if you're on Twitter, this, oh no, they're going to test the emergency alert system. You're going to get an alert on your phone. Oh, it's going to be big. It's going to be bad. Your phone's going to go beep. This is the emergency alert system. Just turn it off.
Yeah, just turn it off.
Just turn it off. If you have a look there, screenshot from my phone on the right, and is that your phone, John, on the left?
No, that's Sandra. I think it was Sandra Whedon that provided that one.
Yeah, so all you do is you go into your advanced settings. If you're on Android, look there. You go down, wireless emergency alerts. Well, I say you go to your advanced settings. You go into it's a 4-step process. But the other way you can do it is simply when you go into settings, you've got a search box at the top, or don't even need to go into settings. If you just flick up, so your app window's open, just type emergency alerts in the top. It'll take you straight there. You can switch them off. You don't have to get the emergency alerts if you don't want them. And the same thing in Apple.
Yeah,
in
you
iPhone.
just go to settings.
Go and switch them off.
Yeah, settings, notifications, right down to the very bottom underneath all the apps, and turn off your alerts. And that's it.
There you go.
Job done.
So
No
there's
panic.
no panic required.
No panic required.
If you don't want the alerts, you do not have to have them. If you want to have them, that's fine. But this ridiculous furor and uproar and oh my god, just switch it off.
Yeah.
Simple.
And it comes up
No
every.
need to.
They mention it every bloody month. The
Yeah.
emergency alerts thing. It comes up every month. Right.
Yeah, just switch it off.
Now we're moving into the close, the more light-hearted section of the show, and this is a tweet from Elon Musk here. And what I want to know is why, when they get to a certain size, does every rocket start to look like a dick? Because he's doing it as well now.
I mean, Jeff Bezos's rocket looks like Dr. Evil's. from,
Yeah, I know.
Austin Powers.
I was so disappointed that Captain Kirk
William Shatner went to space in a dick.
and went to space in a dick-shaped rocket.
I mean, you could have at least built him an Enterprise, right?
I know.
I know, selfish bastard, Jeff. Selfish bastard. You took Captain Kirk. You didn't even give the logistics of making such a thing fly. I don't know, but you're the one with the money.
So what I don't understand is why has Elon Musk never been up in one of his rockets?
Because he quite likes being alive,
Yeah.
and the amount of SpaceX rockets that have blown up on the launch pad.
He probably doesn't trust them. Right.
Adam says the balls drop off at a certain altitude.
Yeah. When it gets cold, no doubt.
I'm looking at the next slide.
I thought this was quite witty. Giggle Pops brings us this. Apparently it's a signed copy. And I can understand why the commentator is a tad skeptical. I mean,
Yeah, me too.
who signed it? Right, here we go.
Give me a sign.
Here we go. This is even more about the Biden crime family. Okay. So this is the Biden family tree,
Right.
right? And guess what? Guess what?
What?
There's 2 Hunter Bidens.
Oh, is there really? Yeah, but Hunter Biden's name's not actually Hunter.
Well, according to this it is, but Hunter, yeah, it's probably his middle name or something. But his mum's name was Hunter, wasn't it? His mum's premarital name was Hunter. That's why he's called Hunter. But anyway, he's got a nephew called Hunter Biden.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that boy has got a lot to live up to when they say your Uncle Hunter used to do this. He's got a fucking he's got big boots to fill, hasn't he? He's got a big nose to fill as well.
Yeah. Yes, he does. Let's
I
move
thought
on
it was
quickly.
quite humorous. So obviously. Right. What? Oh, God. So this was quite good. I thought. Quite witty. Happy Mother's Day, Mum. Happy Mother's Day. A Happy Mother's Day message doesn't make up for the damage you caused to my vagina when I had to give birth to that giant fucking head. Kettle-headed twat.
Kettle-headed twat.
I did like that. It tickled
did.
me. It probably didn't tickle her, but it tickled me.
And this is basically truth. I mean, this here from Aldo is
yeah. It's truth front and center, isn't it, mate?
CIA uncovers Chinese plot to just sit back and enjoy collapse of the United States. Well, Western civilization as a whole, I would actually say. Winnie the Pooh sitting there going, "I'm just gonna stay here in 100-acre wood and eat my honey. I go on holiday to Moscow. But otherwise,
you can see he's got a nice cup of tea beside him as well.
where's that scone scoffer guy? Because he promised us tea.
Yeah, where's the tea? Where's the tea, mate?
She's got tea.
Yeah, G's got his tea. That's what's happened. G got the tea.
Yeah, Sconscoffer made G some tea.
It just see
I
these,
think
see these people
Sconscoffer
like
might have been Adam, by the way.
see these people like teasing us. Right now, this one is a tad serious, right? And
Right.
what we have here is a conspiracy theory, right? That the reason they wanted rid of lead paint was because it's good at blocking out electromagnetic radiation, and that's fine. I can understand that. But when lead paint was banned, we really didn't have a lot of EMR, right?
No.
And children were eating lead paint because have you ever had a kid? I mean, sometimes they just chewed the bloody. I mean, they looked like the dog had been at it, except it didn't have a dog at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're just chewing the cot, So if that had been painted in a lead-based paint, and lead does inhibit brain development, so I think there's good reasons for restricting lead paint. I don't think everything has to be a conspiracy theory,
I agree, but remember, from Ninny D here, breaking, scientists warn that the Earth could run out of conspiracy theories by 2025.
Indeed,
Coming
it
true
could.
at the current rate. That speaks for itself, I shall say. Let's move on then to our final slide of the night. Take us here.
I had to get it in. I had to get this one in, right? So, from Taylor Swift, the meet and greet element of the night at Cargo has been cancelled. This was in support of St. Patrick's Day. Anger after student club hired dwarf to dress as a leprechaun for St. Patrick's Day.
Do you know what?
That's tremendous. That's the kind of thing that students should be doing. They should be hiring dwarfs and throwing them against, like Velcro walls and stuff like that. They shouldn't be out gluing themselves to fucking roads.
Do you know what? I'm actually really upset for the dwarf here because obviously the dwarf was hiring their services out to do this.
Yeah, exactly. Right? The guy's lost a gig.
He's lost a gig. He's lost money.
And the students didn't get their fucking night. Well, they might have got the night, but they didn't get the meet and greet element. Imagine going in and being greeted by a genuine leprechaun there. Pleased to meet you, sir.
But put it this way, Cargo, and I'm talking to the people at Cargo, right? All you've done is deprive a dwarf of an income.
Yeah.
He hired himself out. If he didn't want to do this, he wouldn't have hired out his services. It's like that twat Peter Dinklage, right? That twat Peter Dinklage.
The angry elf.
Well, yeah, from Game of Thrones as well.
Yeah, what's he done?
Well, he's the reason there aren't going to be 7 dwarfs in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The Hispanic Snow White that's coming out in Disney. Yeah, skin as white as snow is how she's described in the book, but she's now a Hispanic woman because we're doing this for, I don't know, clout or a social media uproar. You do what you want, make you feel how you want. I don't really care. But I'm just explaining the discrepancy here, shall we say. But there were going to be 7 dwarfs hired to be the 7 dwarfs, and then Peter Dinklage kicked up a fuss, I guess because he hadn't been contacted. He just spent, the last 10 years of his life playing the most prominent dwarf on TV, calling himself a dwarf throughout the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And he kicked up a fuss saying, we shouldn't stereotype dwarfs. And this is all outdated and stuff after just playing the most prominent and highly paid dwarf in TV history, probably. Yeah. Deprived 7 guys of a gig, and now they're going to be 7 CGI magical creatures, from what I understand.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
So there you go. You go.
All of these things do.
You went one set. She must be sleeping. Oh no, she's not.
He's not getting any love this weekend.
What's going on? What do you mean? What Ewok guy?
Oh, they thought he meant Warwick Davis.
Was it?
No, Warwick Davis is the Ewok guy. He's just had his series cancelled on Disney Plus, hasn't he?
He's not
He did
dead.
the Willows.
He's not dead.
No, they thought we were talking about him.
No. Somebody said the Ewok guy's dead. Is it
No,
not
he's not
Vern
dead.
Troyer that died?
Vern Troyer's dead. Yeah.
Yeah, he was Dr. Evil's sidekick, was he?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, Warwick Davis is still alive, although now no longer getting an income from Disney Plus because his Willow show was so shit that they cancelled it after the first season. I mean, I watched one episode, and he can't act. I'm sorry, Warwick, you can't act. I urge everybody to just go and watch one episode. Just go and watch one episode of Willow,
No,
and watch
Warwick
him
Davis
attempt
can't-
to have conversations with people.
Yeah, Warwick Davis can't act anyway. So anyway,
No,
that's that pretty much wraps it up for the night. What did you think?
I think I do. I think we've had a rioting, roaring laugh of a night. I'm happy to say that I think we will be back at the same time on Wednesday, 8 p.m. It's done pretty well, actually, all things considered. So if you've enjoyed it, please click on one of the donation links in the chat. Only if you can afford to, of course. Don't if you can't. But what I would ask you to do, and is free, is click the Rumble link at the bottom, rumble.com/c/Chasing Dissent Official. It's there in the chat right now. And go and subscribe over on Rumble, just in case YouTube want to bring their hammer down on John. So we're live right there, right now as well. So hi Rumble. I haven't even looked over and seen if anybody's watching over there, actually. But please, consider clicking that link and going subscribe over there.
Thank you,
Julie.
Julie C.
Yes,
thank you, Trudy.
We've got one like over on Rumble, so I assume people are watching over there.
Do we get any? How many views? Do you ever get stats for Twitter? No.
Twitter, no. Twitter's analytics are now shit. Real
okay.
shit.
I did ask
yeah.
Elon Musk today if we could get a new button.
What button do you want?
I want a button to block tweets from cyclists.
So just Jeremy Vine.
No,
Really?
just all cyclists, because they're all fucking arseholes. They really are. They're all turned into fucking goody
John?
two-shoes.
That's racist.
No, it's not. But they really are. I've really gone off them. I was never on them to start with, but I've really, really gone off them now.
And with that, John, with your disdain, for
With my
cyclists,
disdain, I'd like to
say
thank you all.
goodbye to the people.
I'd like to thank you one and all for attending this Chasing Dissent Live episode number 208. My God, 208. And remember, if you like to catch up on an audio format, we do have a podcast as well, which is
I've got
basically
more
just
wrinkles
this,
than I
except
had
it's
when we
audio.
started this. Definitely got
Audio
look, I've
without
definitely got
moving
more lines.
pictures. On the
There's
audio.
definitely more lines in my forehead, John, than when we started this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've aged out terribly.
Well,
That's the news.
take care, everyone. And remember, it's been great for you.
For you.
You can see the writing on the pavement. Young kids, they're growing up in basements. Online, a whole new generation. I'ma make mine, so you better go take it. Always, they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the older generation. Too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive, and save it. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We